ඔෆිස් එකේදී විතරක් නෙවෙයි මම දැන් ගෙදරදිත් IDD කෝල්ස් ගන්නේ SLT ෆෝන් එකේ.
ඔබේ නිවසේ SLT දුරකථනය දැන් IDD පහසුකම සහිතයි.
Good evening. Making headlines first at 9. The merry-go-round. Cabinet reappointed with ousted Minister Vijayadasa Rajapaksa bagging a portfolio.
Their performance and excellence can be judged through the various policy implementation activities.
Same faces. Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa views the new appointment as a shuffle of familiar faces. Mayday, Mayday. Muted Mayday celebrations in protest of postponed Labour Day.
But any party which will be progressive, which will give progressive principles towards the working class and towards the country, we are prepared to cooperate with them.
We are keen to celebrate it on the International Workers' Day.
Watch out! Automatic fuel pricing formula, a must to tackle surging world oil prices.
What I am trying to mention is there has to be price being mechanism in country to sustain these losses actually.
And the oil prices can also translate into rising oil prices domestically, which has not happened at the moment.
Mounting evidence, Israeli Prime Minister presents 100,000 files as alleged evidence of Iran's nuclear lies. A warm welcome to First at 9, your premier English news telecast on Other Derana 24/7. Well, overseas, billionaire WhatsApp co-founder and CEO is to step down over privacy issues with Facebook bosses. And here at home, a new cabinet was appointed in what was termed as a scientific allocation of subject ministries. Well, bringing you the latest from across Sri Lanka and around the world tonight, I'm Indiva Riamuatta. We begin with your day's local news. The much anticipated and long-awaited reappointment of the new cabinet took place this morning at the Presidential Secretariat, with portfolios of 18 ministries subjected to change. The highlight of the new cabinet was the appointment of former Minister of Justice and Buddha Sashana Vijayadasa Rajapaksa taking oath as the Minister of Higher Education and Cultural Affairs.
The much-anticipated reappointment of the Cabinet of Ministers took place at the Presidential Secretariat this morning. Accordingly, majority out of 41 cabinet ministerial positions changed, while several remain unchanged. This becomes the fourth cabinet since President Maithripala took office in 2015. Accordingly, Minister Lakshman Kiriyala retained his position as the Minister of Public Enterprises and Candy Development as he took oath today. Dr. Sarath Amunugama, who was formerly the Minister of Special Assignments, was sworn in as the Minister of Science, Technology and Research, Skills Development and Vocational Training, as well as Candian Heritage. Dr. Amunugama has been given 3 ministries vacated by former Ministers Susil Premajayanta, Chandima Veerakodi and S.B. Disanayaka. S.B. Navina retook oath as the Minister of Internal Affairs and Vayamba Development. Minister Mahinda Amaravira was sworn in as the Minister of Agriculture in place of his previous portfolio of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Development. The portfolio of Irrigation, Water Resources and Disaster Management is vested with Minister Duminda Disanayaka, who was the Minister of Agriculture. Vijit Vijayamuni Soisa was sworn in as the Minister of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Development and Rural Economic Affairs. This is a change from his previous portfolio of Irrigation and Water Resources Management. Minister P. Harrison meanwhile took oath as the Minister of Social Empowerment, filling the position vacated by former Minister S.B. Disanayaka. He earlier oversaw the Ministry of Rural Economic Affairs. Minister Kabir Hashim retained the portfolio of Highways with Road Development being added to his responsibilities. He was the previous Minister of Higher Education and Highways. Portfolios of Minister Ranjit Madhuma Bandara remain unchanged as he retook oath as the Minister of Law and Order as well as Public Administration and Management. In the meantime, the Ministry of Prison Reforms was added to Minister Talatha Atukorala's existing portfolio of Justice. Minister of Provincial Councils and Local Authorities Faiza Mustafa saw an addition to his responsibilities as the Ministry of Sports was brought under him. Former Minister Dayasiri Jayasekara created the vacancy when he stepped down as a minister. Minister D.M. Swaminathan was sworn in as the Minister of Rehabilitation, Resettlement and Hindu Religious Affairs. In the process, he lost his portfolio of prison reforms. Minister Mano Ganesan's responsibilities remain unchanged as he retook oath as the Minister of National Coexistence, Dialogue and Official Languages. Minister Daya Gamage was sworn in as the Minister of Social Welfare, adding to his Ministry of Primary Industries. Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca, who was the Minister of Regional Development, is given additional responsibility with the Ministry of Wildlife and Sustainable Development placed under him. Minister Ravindra Samaravira, who held the portfolio of Sustainable Development and Wildlife, was reappointed as the Minister of Labour and Trade Union Relations following the resignation of former Minister W.D.J. Senavi Ratna. Minister Sagala Ratnayaka retains his post as Minister of Project Management, Youth Affairs and Southern Development. It is a point of note that former Minister of Justice and Buddha Sasana, Vijay Dasa Rajapaksa, who was removed from his position, being given a ministry in the form of Higher Education and Cultural Affairs. Despite there being much speculation of former Minister Ravi Karnanayaka being handed another ministry, such did not materialize. The President's media unit stated that rest of the cabinet ministerial positions remain unchanged, while state and deputy ministerial portfolios will undergo a shuffle tomorrow. At present, with the addition of Minister Vijay Dasa Rajapaksa to the cabinet, there are 42 cabinet ministers, 17 deputy ministers and 19 state ministers in the National Unity Government. As ministers made their way out, Minister Sajid Premadasa responded to questions put to him by First at 9. Minister, do you think that this was done completely on a scientific basis?
Well, the decision-making process that led to the cabinet reshuffle was engineered and pioneered, and leadership was given by His Excellency the President and the Honourable Prime Minister. Both of them did it in a very cordial manner through consultation, compromise and discussion. So I think it is the prerogative of His Excellency the President and the Honourable Prime Minister to make the relevant decisions on cabinet appointments.
Are you satisfied?
I'm extremely satisfied with the ministry that I have gotten.
People are expecting that the cabinet reshuffle will give solutions to most of the problems. Do you think that it's possible?
Certainly, we have a capable cabinet, and I'm sure that their performance and excellence can be judged through the various policy implementation activities that they will conduct from today onwards.
Several other ministers meanwhile seemed satisfied with the proceedings. Minister, are you happy about the reshuffle?
Yes, of course.
Are you positive about the move?
Yeah.
Are you satisfied about the appointment, sir?
Yes.
President Maithripala Sirisena is of the view that lack of honourable politicians in the country to be the biggest problem in the establishment and continuation of government. The President was speaking at a May Day event in Colombo today. May Day celebrations by the Sri Lanka Freedom Party was held at the BMICH under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena today.
When our government was toppled in 1977, I worked with late T.B. Langaratne for the organisation of the SLFP. He was determined not to let the party divide. Although he was defamed heavily at the time, he acted as a great leader with patience and a smile on his face. We see a lack of such characters in the political arena and society. When establishing and continuing a government, the biggest problem we are facing at the moment is this lack of great politicians. And the political arena was abuzz with views on the cabinet's reappointment today. Some seemed content of the reappointment, while others had doubts. This, however, is an illusion in the name of scientific basis. This was an effort to extend their rule for a few more months by deceiving the public. A cabinet reshuffle took place today with a scientific basis. Sarath Fonseca being given the Ministry of Wildlife is certainly befitting according to genetics. I would like to say that it is a successful reshuffle. Everyone was delighted and accepted their positions. No objections were expressed. Same faces are moving here and there. Whatever amendments were made, this government cannot build the country. Minister Vijayadasa said that he is ashamed of being in this government, but after 6 months, he is sworn in as a minister. Yes, we should be satisfied, and if not, can sit in the opposition. Why should I do that when I'm in the government? Someone like him should be appointed as the Minister of Wildlife and Sustainable Development, since he can take bold decisions.
Politicians, artists and the general public gathered to pay their final respects to the late veteran film director and producer Dr. Lester James Pieris, who passed away on Sunday while receiving treatment at a private hospital in Colombo. Funeral proceedings of the late acclaimed film director will be held tomorrow.
In 1956, late Dr. Lester James Pieris entered and made his mark in national cinema by directing the globally acclaimed film Reappointment, and he never looked back. Revolutionizing the then Sri Lankan film industry, which was influenced by South Indian cinema, he flavored it with the Western filmmaking and his own inspirations. The late veteran director's contributions to cinema earned him several local and international awards, including the title Sri Lanka Abhimana, the highest honour for a civilian in Sri Lanka. He passed away on Sunday at the age of 99 while receiving treatment at a private hospital in Colombo. Renowned as the father of Sri Lankan cinema, the body of late Dr. Lester James Pieris is currently resting at his residence along the Lester James Pieris Mawatha in Colombo 5.
Iconic film director and producer Dr. Lester James Pieris made sure Sri Lankan cinema was recognized globally. His contribution to the nation is the reason why we are seeing hundreds of people gathering at his residence to pay their final respects. Dr. Pieris' funeral will be held tomorrow at the Independence Square under state patronage.
First at 9 witnessed that many, including religious leaders, politicians and artists, came to pay their final respects to the late veteran film director.
He respected everyone and everyone respected him. He was a complete man. While we are sad, we must also celebrate his life.
He did utmost for this country, not only with Sri Lankan. He demonstrated that Asia has a cinema. He is leaving us, giving us huge, insightful cultural heritage with us. It remains long-lasting.
Lester James Pieris not only gave a new life to Sinhala cinema, but also he gave a new message through cinema to the people of the country and at large to the world.
At a time where we were copying Indian films, we were imitating what Indian actors was doing. With his vision, he identified the particular way and built up the local cinema. Today, undoubtedly, all the films which he have edited, all the films which he have produced are the best in Sri Lanka in artistic way and also in the commercial way. At this moment, at a time where we are in a crisis, not having directors in caliber of Dr. Lester James Pieris is a very serious problem in Sri Lanka.
The amount of books he referred and the advice he gave, read enough about cinema. See each and every film which you come across, whether it is good or bad. Don't listen to the critics, because for you to learn what is good, you must also see what is bad. This is the gospel advice he gave us.
He was such a humble and he was a very jovial person. He had such a good memory. Though he was 99, I wished he lived up to 100, but I think he lived his life as a real thorough gentleman. Then the films, especially the international award-winning films starting from Reappointment, they all should be preserved. And that's the biggest thing that we could do for Dr. Pieris, because that was his dream.
The remains of the late film director will be brought to the Independence Square tomorrow, where the public will have the chance to pay their last respects with the final rites to be performed at 4 p.m.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Derana 24/7.
Workers world over celebrate the International Workers' Day today, with Sri Lanka going against the grain. The government decided to move this year's May Day celebrations to the 7th of May in view of the Vesak week. Despite this move, several political parties and trade unions, led by the JVP, celebrated the May Day across the country to show their dismay at the change. In the meantime, Minister of Home Affairs Vajirabewardena elaborated on the shift in the date of celebration of May Day, saying it was the Mahasangha of the 3 chapters who requested the celebrations be postponed.
For the first time in the history of the Janata Vimukti Peramuna, the party celebrated May Day in Nallu, Jaffna today. Tamil National Alliance MP M.A. Sumandiran was also present for the occasion.
Tamil National Alliance took a decision after careful thought as to when to celebrate the May Day this year. This is a sensitive matter, and we also did not want to interfere or in any way harm religious observances of the Buddhists. At the same time, we were keen to celebrate it on the International Workers' Day, and therefore we decided that the venues that we choose to celebrate the May Day will be away from Buddhist religious observances and in places where Buddhists don't live.
A May Day rally was also held at Michael Grounds in Nelladi, Jaffna today. Meanwhile, in Colombo, Frontline Socialist Party organised a May Day rally to mark International Workers' Day. A walk was held from PD Sirisena grounds in Maligavatta, Maradana to the Fort railway station. A protest was also staged by several representatives from trade unions opposite the Fort railway station today. They protested the postponement of May Day from 1st to the 7th of this month. After 60 years of affiliation with the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, the Sri Lanka Nidhas Sevaka Sanghamaya celebrated May Day as an independent trade union movement today.
We don't think that this country will progress under this unity government. They are going down the slide, and as the working class, we want to dissociate ourselves from that kind of movement, and we want established independent trade union movement. We are the strongest union in this country with about 90,000 members. But any party which will be progressive, which will give progressive principles towards the working class and towards the country, we are prepared to cooperate with them.
Meanwhile, the Christian Workers' Fellowship organised a May Day rally and a Holy Mass at St. Michael's Church in Kolpiti. This is the 60th year in which celebrations took place. Defending the government, Minister of Home Affairs Vajirabewardena said that the May Day was postponed upon request from the Mahasangha of the 3 chapters owing to the Vesak week being declared from the 26th of April.
The government announced that the Vesak week starting from the 26th, the chief prelates of the 3 chapters requested from the President and the Prime Minister not to celebrate the May Day on the 1st of May, following which the President and the PM decided to obey them. It was never prohibited. Various people now claim that we have even changed the World Labour Day. I think they should have their brains checked.
But in the context of Sri Lanka, what does Labour Day truly represent? Speaking to First at 9, Professor H.D. Karunaratne from the University of Colombo says that politicisation of labour unions is a cause of concern.
We know most of the labour unions today are affiliated to different political parties. We know in other developing countries or capitalist countries, the working class is in one union. Their main purpose is to get the rights. But when it comes to Sri Lankan context, the political parties, they have their own policies, their own priorities. So therefore that the Labour Day is not purely celebrated like the capitalist world, what the workers got rights and rewards. And Labour, of course, Day is to reward for workers. So therefore, there should be nationwide appreciation or nationwide kind of a celebration with respect to labour unions and with respect to Workers' Day.
And in your business segment tonight, oil prices have risen as high as $75 a barrel last week for the first time in 4 years. But what has driven the rally, and will it continue? The oil complex has been driven by supply concerns amid prospects of the United States reimposing sanctions on Iran, while OPEC-led producers continue to withhold supplies. However, in Sri Lanka, where an automatic fuel pricing formula is yet to come into effect, stakeholders have raised concern, saying that the implementation of a formula is pivotal if Sri Lanka is to refrain from incurring further losses due to crude imports. The automatic fuel pricing formula, which was to be presented to the cabinet earlier this month, was further delayed while the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation continued to incur further losses of 38 million rupees daily.
The oil market has been on edge ahead of a 12th of May deadline when President Donald Trump must decide whether to continue waiving sanctions against Iran under the terms of the nuclear deal or restore the penalties on OPEC's third largest oil producer. US crude prices rose from a session low of $67.17 barrel to above $69.34. Meanwhile, Brent crude, the international benchmark, hit a session peak of $75.41 off a low of $73.47. However, prices climbed as high as $74.47 last week, levels not seen since November 2014. According to economists, the reason for the rise in oil prices is that markets have tightened markedly over the past 18 months. Inventories of crude that had built up during the glut of 2014 to 2016 have largely been worked off because of strong demand driven by a booming global economy and supply cuts by OPEC and Russia. According to the central bank annual report for 2017, expenditure on fuel imports increased by 38.2% to $3,420 million during the year, with the highest contribution to the increase in fuel imports coming from refined petroleum products, which grew by 45.9%, owing to increase in import volumes, mainly led by higher demand from the domestic power generation sector. Due to this reason, on the 24th of last month, the Lanka Indian Oil Company increased the prices of diesel by 5 rupees, while 92-octane and petrol was increased by 9 rupees, taking into consideration the increasing world market oil prices. Speaking to First at 9, Managing Director of Lanka Indian Oil Company, Shyam Bora, said that it would be important to bring in a fuel mechanism as soon as possible, given the volatility being experienced in the world market.
Yeah, it is concern for both of us, for LIOC as well as for CPETCO. What I am trying to mention is there has to be price being mechanism in country to sustain these losses actually. Yes, currency depreciation is also an issue. So both the things are hitting oil companies. Solution is the pricing mechanism. The petrol and diesel should be sold in the country as per the international market price. That is the only solution. That includes taking care of the exchange rate also.
When asked about the increase of oil prices in the world market from the convener of the CPC's Joint Trade Union Alliance, DJ Rajakaruna, he said that it would be important to bring in an automatic fuel pricing formula, as maintaining prices at their current levels would prompt the government to use other avenues in a bid to reduce losses. Pricing formula as maintaining prices at their current levels would prompt the government to use other avenues in a bid to reduce losses. We also contacted the economist Dr. Indrijita Ponzo for his views on the rise in oil prices.
And the oil prices can also translate into rising oil prices domestically, which has not happened at the moment. Now, this is where you get into yet another serious issue, because the oil price formula, the famous oil price formula that have been postponed for quite a while, is now going to hit Sri Lankan economy very soon. Why? Because the oil prices are going to have an impact with regard to the imported price, and the domestic price gap had to be absorbed by the Petroleum Corporation and the importers. Petroleum Corporation passing that cost to the budget. So what it means is the government budget is going to have a serious pressure as a result of this excessive subsidizing of rising oil prices. If the government is to bring in a pricing formula, this is the worst time to do so. Sri Lankan economy is in one of the worst economic growth with 3.9%, and at the same time exchange rate has been on an upward swing. So that means exchange rate is going to get hammered as well, and that is going to cut across everything else in the economy. And this means the government's, whatever the reforms that they have in mind, are going to be harder to come by.
The US Federal Reserve is set to hold interest rates steady this week, but will likely further encourage expectations that it will lift borrowing costs in June on the back of rising inflation and low unemployment. Investors have all but priced out the chance of a rate hike at the end of the Fed's two-day policy meeting tomorrow, particularly given its adherence in recent years to only raising rates at meetings that are followed by press conferences. The Fed raised its benchmark overnight lending rate at its meetings on March 20th and 21st by a quarter percentage point to a target range of between 1.50% and 1.75%. It currently forecasts another 2 rate hikes this year, although an increasing number of policymakers see 3 as a possible hike. The pace of rate increases has picked up since the central bank began its tightening cycle in December 2015. And here in Colombo, the equities ended steady today amid a weak Sri Lankan rupee trading near all-time lows, keeping risk appetite muted. The all-share price index ended 0.04% firmer at 6,539.94, while the S&P SL 20 index declined 0.19%. Turnover stood at 517.9 million rupees, less than half of this year's daily average of 1.1 billion rupees. Vivimeshi Fernando with more details.
The market capitalization at the end of the day was 3,050.59 billion rupees. Today's foreign purchases were 303.11 million rupees and foreign sales were 15.23 million rupees. There were 1 crossing today and the crossing turnover was 288 million rupees.
Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Welcome back. It is the third day of the special Vesak zone that is being conducted in a collaborative effort of the Derana Media Network and the Colombo Municipal Council. The Vesak zone, established in the premises of the Colombo Municipal Council and the Vihara Mahadevi Park, attracted public from across the country. Vesak lanterns and Bhakti Gi competitions are being organized at the zone, while the model of the Gal Vihara in Polonnaruwa, made with sea sand, becomes its highlight. Public will have the opportunity to visit the special Vesak zone until tomorrow. In your international news, WhatsApp chief executive Jan Koum is to quit the popular messaging service he co-founded. In a post on Facebook, he said he was taking some time off to do things he enjoys outside of technology. However, according to a Washington Post report earlier yesterday, Koum said he clashed with the parent company Facebook over WhatsApp's strategy. He also objected to Facebook's attempts to use WhatsApp's personal data and weaken its encryption standards. And in your other news overseas, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stepped up pressure on the United States to pull out of a 2015 nuclear deal with Iran, presenting what he called evidence of a secret Iranian nuclear weapons program. Iran's foreign minister, however, said Israeli accusations on Tehran's nuclear program were old allegations that had been dealt by the United Nations nuclear watchdog in the past.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday presented what he called evidence of a secret Iranian nuclear weapons program. Most of the purported evidence Netanyahu unveiled dated to the period before the 2015 accord was signed, although he said Iran had also kept important files on nuclear technology since then and continued adding to its nuclear weapons knowledge.
First, Iran lied about never having a nuclear weapons program. 100,000 secret files prove that they lied. Second, even after the deal, Iran continued to preserve and expand its nuclear weapons know-how for future use. Third, Iran lied again in 2015 when it didn't come clean to the IAEA as required by the nuclear deal.
Iran's foreign minister, however, responded saying that Israel's accusations on Tehran's nuclear program were old allegations that had been dealt by the United Nations nuclear watchdog in the past. Mohammad Javad Zarif in a tweet dismissed Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as the boy who cried wolf and called his presentation propaganda. President Donald Trump has threatened to pull the United States out of the international deal unless it is renegotiated by the 12th of May. The head of Iran's Atomic Energy Organization said yesterday that Iran has the technical capability to enrich uranium to a higher level than it could before the multinational deal was reached.
On to the Indian Premier League in your sports news now. Bouncing back from defeat, Chennai Super Kings defeated Delhi Daredevils by 13 runs at the Maharashtra Cricket Association Stadium last evening. Chennai now tops the points table with 12 points, while Delhi Daredevils languish at the bottom.
We had their second win.
Being invited to bat first, Chennai, spearheaded by Shane Watson's 78 and skipper MS Dhoni's unbeaten 22-ball 51, was able to post a mammoth target of 211 for the loss of 4 wickets.
Into the action. Another big one. That's gone flat. This time it's gone straight and it goes over the leaping fielder.
In reply, Delhi Daredevils didn't get off to the best of starts as they lost both their openers within 46 runs. Rishabh Pant together with Vijay Shankar scored quick half-centuries, but they all went in vain as Chennai sealed their 6th win of the tournament.
Ball of the game, CSK, they're back on track. And unfortunately for Delhi.
That's all from the news desk tonight on First and Night. But before we go, as usual, we'd like to take you to some visuals. And this time, the festive visuals of the Vesak Poya Day celebrated across Sri Lanka. The Vesak Poya Day celebrates the birth of Prince Siddhartha, the enlightenment and the Mahaparinibbana of Gautama Sambuddha. Tomorrow will mark the final day of the Vesak week, which commenced on the 26th of April. Hope you enjoyed these visuals. Have a pleasant evening. Good night.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.